Been here before, you're an old pro.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself, tell us what you're running for.
My name is John Verbeek, running for CD1. It's a district, congressional district, roughly from Astoria, a big C, from Astoria to West Portland to Wilsonville. I have a financial background, married, two grown children. I've lived in the Portland area for 25 years.
Still got a pretty strong Dutch accent. You're Dutch, I believe.
Yeah, born and raised in the Netherlands.
Yeah. How many languages do you speak besides English and Dutch?
Those are the two main ones.
Did you?
But I've had exposure, French and German.
Uh-huh.
And then gymnasium in Holland for a while, Latin and Greek.
So you've run for office a couple times before.
Yeah.
Remind us what you've run for.
I ran for Metro,
Yeah.
twice for the state senate,
Yeah.
and for the House district.
Okay. And in between those races, are you active at the precinct level or on
Yeah.
committees?
Yeah, I've always been active in the Republican Party of Washington County.
Uh-huh.
I could do more, but always had some involvement.
Okay. Okay. Why are you running for office this year?
Well, it's important to win, and I was agonizing running up to the filing deadline that nobody had filed.
Uh-huh.
So I drove down to the elections office, asked the clerk, has anybody filed in any of the races? No.
Uh-huh.
So I ran local races before,
Yeah.
and I thought maybe a bigger district improves my chances.
Okay. All right. Preston, tell us about yourself.
My name is Preston Miller. I'm currently live in Tigard, Washington County. I'm running for Oregon's 1st Congressional District, which includes Western Multnomah County, Washington County, Yamhill County, Columbia County, and Clatsop County. I'm 27 years old. I turned 28 next month. I was in the Army for 5 years. I graduated high school in 2008 and went to the Army right after. I did 5 months in Fort Sill for my basic training and advanced individual training. I did 12 months in Korea, 14 months in Fort Drum, New York, 12 months in Afghanistan, and then 14 months in Fort Drum, New York before I finally got out. When I got out, I was getting sick and tired of partisan politics, but I was only 23 at the time and couldn't run yet. So I went to PCC and got my associates in general studies. And then after getting my associates, I went to Portland State, and I'm about to graduate with my bachelor's of science in history. And now that I'm of the age to run, I decided now more than ever, I would love to run and do some good for this country.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Sherwood High School.
Okay. What led you to join the Army after high school?
What, sir?
What led you to join the Army after high school?
Well, it was a mix of things. I was raised an American patriot. My mom had me at the end of her junior year when she was only 17, but she raised me to be a good American, to love my country. And like I said, we grew up a poor working class, and I had no money for college, and so I figured I might as well join the Army because I love my country and I want to serve, and I wanted money for college.
So you're able to pay for college with whatever the GI Bill is called these days? I'm sure it's not.
Well, I'm currently using the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. It's Chapter 31, because when I got out, I have a 60% disability rating for the things that happened to me while I was in the Army.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. George.
Hello, I'm George Griffith, running for CD1. They described the bulk boundaries of the district, but to be a little more specific, it does include Forest Park and Pals Books, but does not include the train station, does not include the zoo, but does include Council Crest for some reason. So it gets squirrely around the Multnomah County section. And my background is from science, technology, engineering. That's been my entire career. Been doing that for about 25 years. I grew up in Southern California. My dad was a police officer, so I come from a solid middle-class background. My wife and I moved to Oregon over 20 years ago, and since then I've worked in engineering fields for a NASA contractor, alternative energy. I have a LEED accreditation, and I've also worked for some of the largest tech companies, including Intel briefly, and most recently Apple.
What did you do for Apple?
Senior design engineer with their battery systems. I worked on a number of different products from iPad, iPhone, and also the watch, and a few accessories.
Do that up here, or were you working?
That was Cupertino.
Okay, so you're commuting
Yes.
once a week, or
Off and on, a few months here and there. We'd try to get 2 to 3 weeks between and then come up here and go back and forth. It was very difficult, and I'd much rather have worked in Oregon, but sometimes the job situation is such that you have to take an opportunity when it comes up.
Are you currently working?
No, I'm working on my campaign right now.
Okay. Is this your first time running for office?
Yes, it is.
And so what compelled you to run in this cycle?
Well, I was involved in the platform committee some months back with the platform convention in Bend, which happened around October. And I got to know a lot of people and know a lot of issues. We argued a lot. We talked about what was important to the Republicans of Oregon. And I realized that with the way Bonamici is doing things, she does not have a voice. As a Democrat back east in DC, she's shut out and has admitted herself to that. She recently made a statement in the McMinnville newspaper, where she said she has no chance to even vote on important issues. And I was wondering, if she is shut out, what does that mean for Oregon? We have somebody who's a Democrat but has no voice there because Republicans won't even let her get a voice. So I realized that months ago, if we need to change, we need a Republican in office.
So, thank you. What is the most pressing issue from your perspective in CD1 if you were elected, would like to work on in Washington? We started with you last time, George. We'll start at your end.
Okay. For me, the big part of it is vocational training. There's a great deal of people who are being underserved by the educational system, both at the high school level and at the community college level. My experience includes community work with Habitat for Humanity, where I worked where I was a volunteer for over 20 years, and I was on the board of directors for nearly 6. And I learned a lot about how faith-based organizations can have a strong impact on the community. I would like to propose.
Is there a faith component to Habitat for Humanity?
It is it's an unofficial one.
Okay.
But the people involved come from a strong Christian background, though we do have people from all faiths.
Okay.
Atheists and everybody. So everybody's welcome. It's ecumenical. We have everybody included. But largely it's a Christian organization and most people are, but all are welcome.
So
I can vouch for that.
okay.
You
So
volunteer, thank you.
what is the federal role in vocational training? Because a lot of educational programs are really run at the state and local level.
The federal level, I would like to push the federal system to have better grants, better student loans, and other matching funds. Pell Grant system can be expanded, student loans can be expanded as long as it's not overly burdensome to the students who are getting the vocational training. But I would love to do a matching program where a faith-based organization could have students learning as a volunteer basis. They would also be learning in a classroom situation, learning valuable skills, plumbing, electrical, mechanical work that they could use in the real world for all the important stuff like rebuilding our infrastructure and being ready for disaster preparedness and that.
Okay. Preston, how about you? What's the burning issue that would affect CD1 and that you would like to work on in DC?
Well, like I said, if you look at my website at PrestonMillerForCongress.com, one of the first things I say I wanted to do is work on vocational training as well as term limits. Those are my 2 biggest issues I have right now in regards to CD1. Too many times.
So we've heard a little bit. Actually, you're involved with vocational. So tell us.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I said vocational training. What I want to do is bring vocational training back to schools at the high school level. So when students graduate high school, they're able to go straight from the workforce instead of going to college, spending thousands of dollars on a degree that they won't end up using. They'll end up going straight to a cubicle and making minimum wage hour jobs. At the federal level, like you said, the states have more control over the education level, as it should be. But on a federal level, I would work on legislation and providing funds for states that put vocational training back on the books, bringing wood shop, like, how do I put this? Bringing contractors to schools, bringing business, bringing school boards and the parents all together to the table and ask them, how do we bring vocational programs to high school as electives and as requirements for the schools? How do we incorporate it? So we would have to bring business leaders together, parents together, local and state level leaders together, and ask them, how do we improve training for students so when they graduate high school, they can go straight to the workforce?
Okay. What about term limits? Why is term limits an issue for you?
Well, because what we have right now, we have an Ogleart class in the House and in the Senate that have been, we have people in the Senate that have been in office for 20 to 30 years, and the same with the House. And every 2 years to 6 years, they come out and say they're going to do this, this, and that. But then they get reelected, and then they go back to their offices, and they don't really do anything. I mean, if insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and insanity, if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, then Congress is insane. We need new leadership in the House and in the Senate, and the only way to do that is term limits. So career politicians don't continue to make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year and then don't do anything to help the people.
Okay, great. John, what about you?
Well, vocational training, I tie that to the high school dropout rate. I think there's a correlation there. But my main issue are constitutional rights. Lack of freedom of religion, right to bear arms, due process, no unreasonable searches.
Did you see one of those in particular as being abridged in your district in CD1 at the moment?
Religious freedom, I think, is the most important thing.
Are there examples that you would cite where it is currently, where people are currently not allowed to practice their religion freely?
Well, the Boli, the current manager of Boli with a bakery, that a businessman cannot exercise his religion. That it should have been resolved in a different way.
How would you resolve it?
There are so many bakers that can make a cake. Why specifically that particular one? If he feels uncomfortable making a cake that goes against his religious belief, we should accommodate that, and we should not, penalize him out of business.
So his right to practice religion was more important than their rights, their civil rights.
We are under the United States Constitution, so that's you have to be careful with intolerance and with your religious rights, but still under the Constitution they leave room to exercise your own rights, and that's now a good example of that. I find it a bit unconstitutional behavior of, in this particular instance, Boli.
Okay. Great. So, George, you mentioned that you were involved in establishing the platform at the meeting in the state platform. Was there part of the platform that you disagree with?
There's some pro-life sections that I had some trouble with, specifically with my Catholic background. I oppose to capital punishment, and I don't support the platform in that section. So those are my deeply held religious views, and just as I would respect others for their deeply held religious views, I would expect them to respect mine, and we had some very good discussions about that.
So I'm sorry, the pro-life aspect, what is your position?
With capital punishment, I'm opposed to capital punishment.
But you mentioned pro-life, did you mean?
That was a
choice?
section.
That's what he means.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was in that section.
Great, okay. Preston, same question for you. Part of what I think Oregon voters value is independence, and so this is a Republican primary. Is there a place where you are independent, where you disagree with the basic Republican platform?
Things where I disagree with?
Yeah.
Well, I am absolutely for the LGBTQA community and adoption rights.
Okay.
I believe in decriminalization of marijuana and a removal of the Schedule 1.
Okay.
And while I am pro-life myself, I do believe Roe versus Wade should not be overturned, because outlawing abortion outright will not do any good. At the very least, however, late-term abortion past 20 weeks should be outlawed, with exception to a danger to the woman's health, incest, or child molestation or rape. Because science and medical evidence has proven that past 20 weeks, the baby does feel unbearable pain inside the fetus due to abortion.
Okay. I'm curious, given that you have been an active duty service member, what your view is on both LGBTQ service members and also the current controversy over whether transsexuals can serve.
Here's my opinion. I believe that the LGBTQ community has every right to serve in the Army or the military in general. I knew LGBTQA members while I was serving, and it was during the before the marriage ban was lifted, or when. So I had soldiers that were stationed in Fort Drum, New York, and across the United States, where one state was legalized gay marriage, but another state didn't, so they were illegitimized their benefits.
Uh-huh.
When in regards to the transgender issue, I believe transgenders have every right to serve in the military, with exception, the military and the government should not pay for transgender surgery, and the United States military is not in the business of changing people's genders. However, if they want to have their sex changed prior to joining, I have no problem with that. They have every right to serve this great country. But the United States military and government should not be paying for sex reassignment surgery when there's more important things for the military to be doing, like the war in Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Liberia, across Africa, the Middle East, and the world.
Okay. John, how about you? An area where you would demonstrate independence from the sort of the party platform?
Well, the biggest issue I find is the lack of the right of the consumer in the economy. Under the Democrat leadership, we had this public-private partnership, the role of government as an employer. And with the Republicans, you have to be careful that not big corporations do the same thing at the expense of the consumer. So when the Consumer Protection Agency, when they get a bad image, or we want to do away with it, who speaks up for the consumer?
So you would, the agency that Mick Mulvaney has become chairman of, the CFPP, I think is the acronym, you would favor preserving that and having a strong consumer protection focus?
I like to preserve it.
Okay.
The way in America, whatever we organize, we do to the extreme.
Yeah.
And whether it's with the environment or with consumer protection, but I don't like the trend towards less consumer protection.
Okay, great. This year, there's a lot of speculation about the impact of President Donald Trump on the midterm elections. I'd like each of you to give the president a letter grade so far in terms of how he's performed as president, and just briefly elaborate on that letter grade. Preston, we'll start with you this time.
Yes, sir. I am myself a pro-Donald Trump Republican. I believe he's doing wonders for the economy and bringing jobs back to the United States by lowering taxes. Do I believe that our president is ill-tempered? Yes, he does have a tendency to go on Twitter a lot, but I think that's one of the reasons people chose to elect him, because he's different from his predecessors. He's not a career politician. He gave up a billion-dollar Playboy lifestyle. He gave up a Playboy billionaire lifestyle so he could be elected and serve this great nation.
What letter grade would you give him so far?
B+.
B+. Why not an A?
Like I said, he's doing a great job bringing jobs back to the country, but his ill temperament does have repercussions on a grand scale.
Okay.
But other than that, I think he's doing great work for the military and bringing jobs back to the nation. So I would give him a B+, but not an A because of his ill temperament on Twitter.
Okay. George, you next. How has President Trump done so far, and what grade would you give him?
I'd give him a grade of a B+, just the same.
What has he done that has fallen short of giving him an A?
Well, let me think. Let me first state that he's done a good job with the international arena. I called him a bully once when I was in Astoria, and being a bully is exactly what we need when we're dealing with China. Because in the world stage, we need to deal with Xi, we need to deal with Putin, we need to deal with world leaders who have been kind of taking advantage of the United States for some time, especially in the area of intellectual property and that. So yes, he's done a good job in that area. The economy is doing good.
So, given that you have worked in the tech sector for all of your career, it sounds like?
Oh yes, since I got out of college.
Yeah. So do you subscribe to the belief that China is pillaging our intellectual property and that we need to push back hard? And for instance, today, you know, we have basically again forbidden an investment that they would like to make in an American tech company. Is that the right?
Which one was that? This is the news of today. Everything's
It's I think it's Huawei, or it's related. I'm mispronouncing it.
Huawei. Yeah.
It's related to the Huawei deal. It's not
Right. There's been times when I've traveled to China. I've spent a total of probably a few months over in Southeast Asia, and when we go to a production line to set up one of the products I'm working on, there is often a time when my product line is right here, and then right next door, same factory, same workers, there's another product line from a different company, a different competitor, and it's separated by a curtain. That is it, a curtain. And they have people that work on this line, and then they go over to this other line. So there is lax security at many Chinese facilities.
Okay. John, how about you? What letter grade would you give the president and why?
A-. I think it's remarkable what he accomplished. I see the whole country shifting to the left and how he is able to hard-charging New Yorker. I don't have a problem with New Yorkers. You never wonder what he meant when you leave the meeting. But a minus because, first of all, nobody is perfect. And also the latest budget deal, the expense to the taxpayer. I mean, it's a deal, and I respect him for reaching across the aisle and get the deal done. But such a big bill to the taxpayer, that deserves a minus.
So the tax deal that he helped orchestrate is going to cause the deficit to explode, the federal budget deficit to explode. What's your view of that?
Well, it's a number. 30 trillion. If you get a social security check of a few $100, what is a trillion? It's just a number. And there's no debt ceiling in the Constitution.
Right.
It says Congress shall can raise taxes, and so taxes and regulation focus on that, and I totally support less regulation and less taxes. I wish we would do that in Oregon.
But if you're a financial guy, you've been a financial guy your entire career, aren't we essentially just spending today and putting off the reckoning until tomorrow? Isn't that what this tax bill does?
We do.
So, I mean, you know, Trump ran on a position of fiscal conservatism, and then he said, okay, deficits don't matter anymore.
He's a deal maker, and a deal maker is not a number guy. I'm a number guy.
Okay.
I'm more principled. I probably wouldn't have gotten the deal done, and I'm not the president. It's important to get the country together, and it's a bipartisan problem, and the key issue is entitlements. And no politician dares to touch it. We have to protect the most vulnerable. But if we don't take care of the entitlements and do something about it, the economy and the markets will do it to us. And that I speak as a financial person.
As you've all pointed out in different ways, it's difficult to be a Republican in Oregon. Voter registration is against you, and it's against you in this district. I think, George, you put the numbers up on your website.
Yes.
So what pitch or plea would you make to the voters of CD1? One of you has noted that Bonamici essentially has no voice in DC. That's an important consideration. But why should the voters of CD1 spend a precious vote on somebody who's going to have a hard time beating she may be a voiceless incumbent, but she's got the power of incumbency in a blue district in a blue state. So give us your elevator pitch. George, we'll start with you.
Yes, she does have a tremendous lack of power in Washington, D.C., so that's a big thing. And if voters want to vote for somebody who's an incumbent who's going to not have a voice there, then they're going to have to think about what are the consequences and what are you going to get for the state of Oregon when you vote for somebody in that position. She sits on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, something which, as a consumer protection lawyer, she really doesn't have any experience with. My background with science, technology, and engineering would be a perfect fit for a committee assignment like that. I think I could bring a lot of vocational training and jobs to the state because I understand how technology works. We need, going forward, we seriously need politicians who understand the importance of the technical issues that this country will be facing in the next few decades. If you look at internet, you look at regulation of security breaches, anything from autonomous vehicles to drone regulation to all the pressing issues that will be facing us at a technical level, most of these politicians don't know anything about it. They're passing rules and making laws. They did these interviews with Mark Zuckerberg not too long ago, and he danced circles around him because they didn't even know what he was talking about.
Right. Okay. How old are you, George?
I'm early 50s,
Exactly.
52 this year.
And I would say just because we ask everybody their age,
Okay.
because people want to know. Preston, how about you? Make your pitch for why voters in a blue district should support a Republican.
Well, like I said, I'm a pro-Donald Trump Republican, but I also believe in the Constitution. For example, the American use of military force of 2002 should be reversed, and war power should be returned to Congress. Like I said, I believe in the decriminalization of marijuana and removal of Schedule I drugs. I'm for the LGBTQA community. While I'm a Republican, I won't toe the party line. I will fight for everyone in my district, whether it's Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, or Independent, or non-affiliated. I believe in the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, and the Bill of Rights. I believe the CIA and NSA, the FBI, and the federal IRS should get out of people's business. I believe in lower taxes for small businesses so small businesses can thrive and compete with multinational companies on the national level. Smaller taxes. I want people to be able to go to work in the morning, have a fulfilling job, go home, take care of their families, and have a livable wage. I will fight for everyone in the state of Oregon in the 1st District with the best of my ability. If I go against Republicans on some issues, I'll cross party lines and fight with the Democrats like Rand Paul does. If I agree with the Democrats, I'll fight alongside Republican lines. While I'm a Republican myself, I will fight for the 1st District, not my party.
John, how about you?
It's always a good, any election is a good election to speak out for freedom. And as a US representative, how much power you have. You work more to committees, and I'll speak for freedom. Don't take freedom for granted. And that should appeal to Democrats and Republicans alike. I'm the latest straw poll at the Washington County Republicans. When I left, I had that feeling of Checkpoint Charlie, where the candidates who infringe on constitutional rights seem to have the edge. And that Checkpoint Charlie was on 4 languages: in English, Russian, French, and German. You're leaving the American sector. Don't take freedom for granted.
Sorry, the fact that these questions were in 4 languages, you didn't like that?
I like that because it's not only for America, it's freedom for there were 1 million Warsaw Pact soldiers around that Checkpoint Charlie, and they respected that US Army post.
Which endorsements, I haven't followed who's endorsed whom in this race, so John, have you gotten any endorsements that you'd like to share with us?
It's too early, but usually I get good grades from Oregon Right to Life and gun rights groups.
Are you a gun owner?
Pardon?
Are you a gun owner?
Yeah, I do. I'm maybe I
Maybe.
maybe
Maybe.
not.
Okay. All right. Preston, have you gotten any endorsements that you'd like to tell us?
Not yet. Like I said, I'm a one-man campaign. My fiance and my family are basically my campaign team,
Okay.
and so I've just been hitting the streets, grassroots political activism, and no, I have not received any endorsements yet.
How about you, George?
I won the straw poll, Republican Party, Washington County.
Okay. What were the numbers on that straw poll?
30, 25, 17, 4.
30, 25, 17, 4.
Yes.
Who's
Or
for?
abstains,
4 abstain.
because some people didn't like the process.
Well,
And they didn't get the majority either. It had like 75 people that showed up, and he needed 77 to get the majority.
Right, it would have been an endorsement, we were one short.
who is the chairperson of the Republican Party of Washington County?
Tracy Honnold?
Is Tom Bryan active in that organization? Former longtime Washington County chairman.
I don't think so. I had to double check that.
Okay. All right, well, we have a lot of these to do, and unfortunately, we are out of time. We have one question that John will remember that we always ask. We always try and humanize candidates, not that you're not all humans, but we ask in each race, we ask the same question of all candidates. Aaron, you've criticized me for getting that question incorrect, so please ask it correctly.
I will ask it correctly and well.
Yeah.
The question this year is, and George will have you start.
Okay.
This is going to be your area of expertise. What's the most embarrassing thing that Facebook knows about you?
The most embarrassing? Well, the big thing is that I have avoided Facebook almost my entire career. I started literally just a few months ago. I had this policy of being Wilson on every post that my wife does.
Being what?
Wilson,
I don't know what that means.
you know, from Tool Time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Hi. You're lurking. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
so
Okay.
that's
Why did
my
you-
thing.
Why did you avoid Facebook until this? And I assume you started it because of your campaign.
Yes, it's for campaign reasons, for necessity.
Okay.
Facebook is very invasive in a lot of ways, and
Did you always see that
Yes.
with your technical background?
Right.
Okay.
I never really trusted it from day one. It was way too open. People sign over their permissions just without even thinking about it.
Okay.
They know everything about where you go, where you travel, who your friends are. It even identifies people in your photographs who aren't even Facebook people. So everybody gets identified, and that's kind of scary.
So is there anything embarrassing now that you are on Facebook that Facebook knows about you?
I'm sure there will be. And I need to check that. It's too early to tell.
Preston, what's the most embarrassing thing Facebook knows about you?
I have no idea. I've had a Facebook since '09. Like I said, I was in the Army for 5 years.
Must have done some crazy stuff when you were in the Army?
Well, you don't post that.
I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean-
any of it ever make it onto Facebook?
I'm sure it did, and I'm sure I took it down the very next day.
Okay.
Like I said, I can be ill-tempered, but I'm usually pretty quick to correct any mistake
Okay.
I did. Like I said, I'm pretty sure there is something embarrassing on there that I forgot.
Yeah.
But like I said, I try to keep myself well-tempered and well-mannered. But I mean, like I said, it's Facebook. It's a very invasive, proper social media platform. But I do love Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there is something embarrassing on there. I just can't really think of it at the moment.
Okay. John, how about you?
Well, if there's something embarrassing in Facebook, I should repent from it, and nobody should be embarrassed.
All right. Thank you to all three of you. We really appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you.
Pleasure to meet all of you.
Nice meeting you, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, sir.
Good. Thanks for coming in.